Hey guys, it's Mandy as a Carpet Vanguard deck profiles. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm sorry. This time we're doing Dark State's Selseera deck profile. So I'm recording this Saturday, February 15th at 8:12 a.m., which means this is probably going to go up sometime in this week, which is fun because it's technically an impromptu deck profile since Bushy decided to drop a promo grade 3 midway. But you know what? They also gave us a Cuter Sanctuary Device Sister promo grade 3, and I'm going to work with it. So honestly, this deck is kind of interesting. It's like a Highlander Dark States deck that has a bunch of soul charging with orders. So yeah, let's see what we got here. First today, we have our Energy Generator. It's our Ride Deck Crest. You might have Ride Deck Crest and your Ride Deck. Auto, when you would ride, put this card into your Crest zone, and if you in second, your Energy Charge 3. And the continuous may have it to 10 energy, and auto, beginning of your Ride phase, Energy Charge 3, and act once per turn, Energy Boss 7, draw a card. All are pretty solid because you get a free 3 energy every turn. On top of that, if you in second, you get an extra 3 energy, and once you hit 7 energy, you can Energy Boss 7 to draw a card. In this deck, you will never be able to use the Energy Boss 7 to draw a card because your main supporting grade 2 unit does actually cost 3 energy to restand, which is a very cost-efficient skill. But hey, you know, it's nice that it gets 3 for energy every turn, so you can spam that grade 2 more consistently. That takes us over to our starter, and that is Clock Hands Draco Kid. Grades will boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto run if you rode upon, if you're in second, draw a card. Standard starter, Nutbuds a free draw if you go second. You can make this any starter you want. I just chose to make it Clock Hands because every single like generic ride line that we get for Dark States, I just tend to give the Favrenio generic line. So yeah, this says it's Favrenio starter, therefore it's the starter for this deck. So one of. Moving on to our triggers, we have our Over Trigger and Hades Dragon Deity of Resentment Galmaga held. Grades will boost, 50k shield, 5k base, Over Trigger, in your deck. When you vote as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose my moves, give it plus 1 million for the turn. If you voted during draw check, activate its a dash effect, which you get during your turn. All your vanguards get plus 10,000 power and plus 1 crit to the end of this fight. Considering this is a deck with a restanding vanguard that every single time I've played it so far has been able to restand on the first grade 3 turn, regardless of what grade the opponent is, that's pretty good because that means your vanguard will always be a 23k base, double critical, swinging twice every single turn, which is fun. And then on your Persona Ride turns, it's 33k with boosters and other triggers applicable to it. All around, Galmaga Held is really great for consistent offensive pressure. Again, in a deck that has a restanding vanguard who can also just give more numbers to the board in general. You can run Vona for more consistent multi-attacking and pressure your opponent out that way. Those would be the 2 over triggers I would recommend you use, but personally I would prefer Galmaga Held because again, once you sack it with a deck that has a restanding vanguard, that's going to be fun to deal with. Moving on to our normal triggers, we have 3 fronts and Huckle Hustle. Grades will boost, 50k shield, 5k base. It's a standard front. It just is here to make sure you consistently push through your opponent with aggressive pressure. If you are going to run a front trigger, please be smart. Run Diabolos Girl Natalia instead of Huckle Hustle. The reason why I don't do that is because I don't like running like archetypal cards outside of their archetypes, which in that case Diabolos Girls Natalia is obviously a Diabolos archetype, which means since it's not a Diabolos deck, I'm not running her in here. But the reason why you would run her is because she has the ability to make a 20k shield. That's why I recommend you run her. Don't run Huckle Hustle like I am. Then we have 8 crits, 4 copies of Direful Doll Bethany. Grades will boost, 50k shield, 5k base. You can make this any crit you want, just to make a Bethany because I just copied this deck from something else and it just stuck there. I think I copied it from Androl, to be fair with you. Then we have 4 copies of Stem Deviate Dragon. Grades will boost, 50k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rear guard at the end of the boosters, shove it a soul, choose and give it take it for the turn. This deck can in theory run into a soul problem with it's really unlikely, but it is possible. So just in case the situation ever comes up. And then we have 4 copies of Direful Doll Alexandra. Yep, that tracks. I definitely copied this from Androl. So grades will boost, 50k shield, 5k base. Like you make this any heal you want. I chose to make it Alexandria because it's copied straight from Androl, and Androl have this as its heal trigger. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have 4 copies of the ever so faithful Brainwash Swirler. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto and placed on rearguard circle, soul charge 1, and auto rearguard when your card is put into your soul by soul charging specifically, not by moving a card from your hand into your soul. If your vanguards are grade 3 or greater, this unit gets 5,000 power until end of turn, so it gets 10,000 if you soul charge 2, 15,000 if you soul charge 3, etc, etc. All on this pretty solid because the second you place it, regardless of what your grade is, you get to soul charge 1, but if you wait until you got to grade 3, you're going to get an extra 5k on top of that, and that power will keep on rising as long as you keep soul charging while your vanguards are grade 3. And while this deck doesn't have too many soul chargers, it does have at least 2 others that you can use to possibly increase your power to either 18k the turn it's placed, 23k the turn it's placed, which makes it just a good around booster overall. So I like having it here as a 4 for free soul charging and good number pressure. Then we have 4 copies of Famed Harsh Demonic Lording Bathlem. Great on boost, 5k shield, 8k base. This is the card I've always wanted to use for Dark States, but I never did because A, I hate the order that she's related to, and B, I never had space for her in any of my decks. But anyways, continues rear guard circle. If you play in a normal order during your turn, she'll get 5,000 power. Considering this deck has 11 different normal orders, more likely than not, she's going to be a 13k base. And then auto when placed on rear guard circle, counterbots won't search your deck or your drop zone for up to 1 reception of the Famed Demonic Mansion. Reveal it, put it to your hand, and if you search your deck, you shuffle it. Pretty solid. It only takes up 1 CB, which to be fair, only the main grade 3 actually takes up CB, so it's not a bad combination at all, and you'll be able to search your entire deck for one of your orders that will basically go to Soul, and therefore help you cheat out the Vanguard skill a little bit quicker. And if you play this while you're on your grade 2 turn, well, you get to play that order actually. So around Batham's a pretty solid grade 1. She's a 13k base, literally the turn you play an order, which will most likely be every turn in this deck, and not to mention the fact that she nets you an order just for 1 CB, which only the main grade 3 takes care of. So 4 copies of Batham. Then we have 4 copies of our PG and Ridicule Disruptor. Grade 1 boost, 0 so, 6k base, contains Sentinel to 4 Sentinels, and deck, and also put on guard circle. Choose on mutes, it cannot be hit in the battle. If your hand has 2 more cards in it, choose a card from your hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing too special about it. Basically, that means if there's only one of the cards in your hand, we place it on guard circle. You don't have to discard it, is great, because that means you aggressive as you want in the early game, spam the ever living hell out of these 2 and the rest of your order line, and then when your opponent does eventually counterattack you, throw it on the PG, give them the middle finger, and you're good to go. All around, this card works really well with the deck because you have a lot of discard fodder in terms of the orders, and then you can just send the orders from drop zone into Soul via the main grade 3 skill. And because this deck can be really aggressive depending on how you open, you can actually afford to outright rush your opponent with everything you've got, and then throw it on the PG and you'll be fine, because as long as an order hits your drop zone, you'll be able to recycle it. So 4 copies of Ridicule Disruptor. She's a very solid PG to have. You can remember Skill Hate Dragon or Repelled Malice Dragon because they have the exact same skill as her. I choose to make a Ridicule Disruptor though because she came out closer to the time of Selseera's quote-unquote release. Moving on to our last grade 1 on the deck, one of in the ride deck, none in the main deck of Devastating Chopper, grade 1 boost, 5k short, 8k base. All our opponent, if I can draw a card and choose a card from your hand, discard it. You can technically make this any grade 1 you want, because the weird thing is, Dark States is the deck that has the least restrictive ride lines. Lyrica Monasterio does have a handful. Brant Gate, because their support requires like certain set orders, they are technically restricted by ride lines. Stoicheia has like 1 or 2 that aren't restricted by ride lines. And then Cuter Sanctuary has like a good small chunk, like maybe 3 or 4. And then Dragon Empire is mainly just super restrictive. I think barely any of their ride lines are quote-unquote generic. And then Dark States has like, at least off the top of my head, 3 of its first original ride lines were at least half generic, because the entire Bruce ride line was generic. Deep Sonicer from Bro Magnus ride line was generic. This is generic, and this is the Favrenio ride line. There might be one other, but yeah, either way though, the draw and discard one, you don't technically need this. So if you want to run like Deep Sonicer for a free soul charge, or the Diabolo starter and the Diabolo's grade 1 Bad Steve to end up getting an extra soul charge and also getting a unit on board, you can do that as well. But again, I chose to make this the Favrenio ride line, therefore Devastating Chopper is in this deck. And I mean, hell, the draw and the discard helps you get an order into your drop zone while possibly getting one into hand, so it's a 1 for me. Then we have our grade 2s, 4 copies of Flamed Blazing Demonic Lady Orins, grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, auto when she's placed on rearguard circle other than by a unit card's ability. If you played a normal order during that turn, Soul Boss want to check the top 5 cards of the deck and choose and reveal up to 1 card with a grade less than or equal to your Vanguard from among them, call it to rearguard circle if it's a unit, and put it to your hand if it's a normal order and shuffle the deck. So she can either get you an order that you can play on the next turn, or she can get you a unit which gets you an extra unit on board and that you can attack with. And then auto rearguard, when this unit attacks into a grade 3 or greater card, Soul Boss 3, draw a card, she'll get 5,000 power for the turn. Okay, and that's where your slow problem will come in if you're spamming her out the wazoo. But typically you don't spam that skill, you probably only use it once, maybe twice throughout a game, and even then that's pushing it. But hey, you know what, if you do end up using her skill, she's a 15k with a free draw on top of it. And again, her superior call skill helps you get units on board just by simply playing an order. And because the only grade 3 in your deck is your Persona rides, the second you hit grade 2, you can play an order, call her down, and you'll basically be able to get whatever you want out of your top 5 cards of the deck. So 4 copies of Orine, very solid grade 2 to have for board pressure, and she's at least a good for resources and number making. Then we have 4 copies of our main grade 3's loyal supporter according to the lore, and my favorite grade 2, Adventure Scholar Eris. Grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, auto place on rearguard circle. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater Selseera, check the top 7, choose up to 1 normal order from among them, reveal it, put it to hand and shuffle the deck, and if you did reveal a card, choose a card from your hand and shove it to soul or discard it. So cool, this is a way to just basically get a free order into your hand, and then you can either put that order into soul to cheat it out with Selseera, or just straight up put it into drop zone and then shove it to soul via Selseera anyways. All around, that's a pretty great skill because he does it for free and it can be placed by any means, meaning you can superior call it off of Orines over here, and then, or you can superior call it off of Selrisa's skill herself, and then you'll still be able to check the top 5 and then send something soul, and again, it's done for free, so you don't have to worry about cost-wise with that. And then auto rearguard, when your grade 3 or greater Vanguard Selseera in this card and attacks into anything, if your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, and your unit did not stand by a card ability this turn, doesn't matter if it was the Vanguard or the Rearguard that stood by an ability, as long as someone didn't stand that turn, Energy Blast 3, 3, oh, you get that every turn of your energy generator. You'll be fine. And then stand this unit. And if you stood, choose one of your vanguards, and both this unit and that unit get 5,000 power for the turn. All around, that's pretty solid because that's a simple energy blast 3 to stand itself in the vanguard, meaning you have a total of 5 attacks. Twice you'll have this unit, you have the vanguard twice, and then you'll have your other rearguard circle. Unfortunately, you can't stack that ability by having 2 of them on board because the first half will only go off if you haven't stood a unit by card abilities that turn, meaning you can only use one of them. But hey, again, 5 attacks is still pretty good, and giving Ares plus 5,000 and the vanguard plus 5,000 is great, especially because maybe you're on a persona right turn, or maybe you have Selseera's full effect active, so both are already getting plus 5. Aron, very solid supporting card for this deck because it checks the top 7, it adds anything basically to your hand / to your soul, while also being able to be a restander for only costing 3 energy, which you get every turn, so making it technically free. So 4 copies of Ares, very solid grade 2. I love this card a lot. It's just good all around for this deck. That takes us over to our last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the ride deck, none in the main deck, of Gear Rhinos of Barreling Impulsion. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, continues Vanguard Circle. When you ride, you may soul boss 1 instead of choose a card from your hand and discard it. All around, that's pretty solid because it changes your ride deck discard cost onto just a soul blast 1 cost. And considering the fact that this deck has the starter, which you will never need in your soul, you can just soul blast that out and then ride to your grade 3 and then you're good. It's nice cost efficiency wise. You don't have to discard a card, so you can use that card to send a soul for Selseera skill, or if it's an order, you can just straight up play it so you can benefit for some Selseera skill. It's just all around a nice support card to have in the deck as a ride deck card because it alternates the cost, so one of them in the ride deck of Gear Rhinos of Impulsion. Finally, move on to our last unit card in the deck, but not our last card in the deck, and that'll be 3 copies in the main deck, 1 copy in the ride deck of Seeker of Knowledge Selseera. Once we're done with her, we'll go over her supporting orders. She's a grade 3 with Twin Drive and Persona Ride. She's a 13k base as well. She has 2 different abilities. Active Vanguard once per turn, put a hand card into your soul and choose a normal order from your drop zone, put it into the soul, and then choose up to 1 card from your soul, call it to rearguard circle, and then choose up to 1 normal order from your soul, and it would get continuous. This card can be played from soul, and when it would be played into drop zone after play, bind it instead till end of turn. All around, this is pretty solid because it just sends any single hand card to soul. So literally the card you draw for turn, if you have nothing else in your hand, the card you draw for turn, you can send that to soul, get a normal order from the drop zone, put it back into your soul, call a unit card from your soul, and then not to mention, or technically you can call an order from your soul, but the order would just fizzle out immediately, so call a unit card from your soul, and then you can pick the order that you just sent to soul, and then make it so that it can be played, and then bind it afterwards. If you're thinking that binding it's a problem, don't worry, because she interacts with the bind zone too. Because her second skill is Active Vanguard once per turn. By counterbossing 1, she'll get all the following according to the number of normal orders in your soul and bind zone with different card names from each other. If there are 3 or more, that's very easy to hit in this deck. You can easily hit that by your first grade 3 turn. Auto Vanguard once per turn at the end of the battle that she attacked, stand her, and she'll lose 2 drives for the turn. However, if your opponent's Vanguards are a grade 3 greater, she'll also gain 1 drive to end of turn. So for those of you that have played V and know what Spectra Duke is, it doesn't work like that. I wish it worked like that because that was a really fun way Bushy interacted with that skill. It's not instead of losing 2 drives, you just gain a drive. It is you will still lose 2 drives regardless, but if the opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, you'll gain a drive on top of it, so it'll at least be, she'll have 1 drive check, so in total you'll have 3 drive checks throughout the turn, which all around isn't bad. Like, getting a CB1 to get a free restand skill is great, especially because, again, this deck can get 3 or more normal orders with different card names in your soul very quickly, and that restand skill hits regardless if your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or not. You just get the extra drive that the opponent's Vanguards at grade 3. As for the 5 or more, this one is the one I tend to have a harder time hitting just because I'll always be 1 order short. Like, most of the time I'll hit 4, so I'm always like just underneath it. Anyways, if you have 5 or more different normal orders in your soul or in your bind zone, you can get a continuous Vanguard skill. All your units get 5,000 power. Cool. She'll be an 18k. The units around her will get an extra 5k, meaning your Selseera support cards or just your rear guards in general are hitting for at least 5k more drop, meaning your opponent has to guard with 5k more. So you're hitting magic numbers and forcing out more cards out of the hand. It's a simplistic skill, but it's solid. She has a restand skill that technically procs off for free. She has a board plus skill, which technically procs off for free, and literally both those just come from 1 CB, which is just really easy to get, and she has the ability to get you a rear guard and get you a normal order to play for her skill just by simply sending the card you drew into your soul. Yeah, Selseera's all around a very good grade 3. She gets you rear guard, she gets you orders, she basically self-sustains herself, and all she really needs is actual orders to make sure that happens. So 3 copies in the main deck, 1 copy of the ride deck of Selseera. She's a really well-designed grade 3 in my opinion. That takes us over to our normal orders. So if you try to go through the Dark State normal orders, you'll see that we barely have 10, and yeah, there are not a lot of good ones to choose from because most of them are kind of restrictive, and even the ones that aren't, they're not necessarily good. Like I saw two really good orders, but both of them require a Chaos Vanguard, and I'm not about to change the ride line to Chaos just so I can use the order possibly on the grade 1 turn. Anyways, Brother Soul is a grade 1 normal order, and you just straight up Soul Charge 2. If this card doesn't look familiar to you, that's because this card came out in the original Bruce trial deck for D. This card that is, I think, 4 years old now is in this deck because Bushy barely gives us normal orders, but you know what? It's fine. It's a free Soul Charge 2 that can trigger Brainwash Swirler, and that's all I can tell you. So 2 of in the main deck. Then we have 2 copies of Reception of the Famed Demonic Mansion, grade 2 normal order. You may Soul Charge 1, and then choose one of your units, give it 5,000 power for the turn, and at the end of that turn, ditch a hand card, and you can bounce this mansion from your drop zone to your hand. Okay, cool. It's not a mandatory soul charge. If you're afraid of decking out, you don't have to soul charge, but regardless, someone will get 5k, and if you want to recycle it for the next turn, you can ditch a card to put it back into your hand, but again, since your goal, you're probably going to soul charge it from the drop zone via Selseera's effect, you don't have to worry about that, but if you have multiple orders in your hand, then technically speaking, yeah, you can ditch one and then bounce this back, so that way, worst case scenario, you can play that order on the next turn. Either way, though, it's a nice 2-of. It gets you a free soul charge if you really want it, and someone gets 5k, and again, it's recyclable if you really want to get it back. That takes us over to 3 copies, the only of our orders that are at 3 copies of Have a Great Year. So it's a grade 2 normal order with no cost. You just simply check the top 5 cards, choose up to 1 card from among them, put it to Soul, and shuffle the deck. This is the way I try to get a 5th order into Soul. It doesn't work. Well, also to be fair, whenever I've had Have a Great Year, it's never in my hand when I need it, so there's that. But again, being able to check the top 5 for free and get any card in there, so worst case scenario, you're just deck thinking by 1 card, it's still pretty solid. Again, the ideal is that you're going to hit an order off this, and then you're going to send the order to Soul, and that would put you at the threshold of 5, but it is what it is, so 3 copies of Have a Great Year, at least to get you a Soul card. Then we have 2 copies of Prison Luring Lamp, grade 3 normal order, play it by Counter Blasting 1 and Soul Blasting 3. Choose up to 3 cards with different grades from your drop zone, put them all into the Soul, and if your Soul has 4 more cards with different grades in it, draw a card. Essentially what this is, it's Soul Blast your ride line and whatever extra card you Soul Charged earlier, and then put 3 orders from your drop zone into your Soul. That is specifically why Brother Soul is here, because it's a grade 1 normal order, and it's the only grade 1 normal order we can use. Yeet them all to Soul. Whether you get the draw or not, it doesn't matter. Your only goal here is specifically just getting as many orders into your Soul as physically possible from the drop zone. So 2 copies of Prison Luring Lamp. You know, it's kind of hefty in the sense that it does cost CB and it does cost 3 Soul, but A, you always have 3 Soul, and B, even if you do have to Soul Blast an order, you're just going to put that order right back in. So it's not like there's a problem there. So 2 copies of Prison Luring Lamp. And then our last card in the deck is Haunted Ball, grade 3 normal order, play it by Energy Blasting 3. Choose 2 cards from your drop zone, put them both into your Soul, and then if your Soul has 10 or more cards, then choose a Vanguard, give it 10,000 power for the turn. Okay, you most likely won't have 10 cards in Soul unless you hit every single copy of Brother Souls and you play them every single turn, and unless you hit at least 1 Reception of the Famed Demonic Mansion. But hey, you know what? If you do, good for you, because then Haunted Ball will be able to give your Vanguard plus 10, but it's really only here just to yeet any of your orders that you use as discard fodder throughout the game and yeet them into the Soul, and then if your Vanguard does get 10k, it does get 10k. Either way, though, it's nice that it only costs 3 energy, so that way the only card that actually competes with it in terms of cost is Aris, and again, you get 3 for energy every turn, and you're not pulling off Aris at least to your second grade 3 turn or your first grade 3 turn, so you have time for this one. So 2 copies of Haunted Ball, it's a good order for what it does. And without further ado, that's it for this one. I hope all of you enjoyed. Also, this deck is actually really fun to play. Yes, we only have a total of 11 orders, but weirdly enough, this deck does consistently get at least the restand off for the Vanguard. The only hard part is getting the 5k, but once you do, you're essentially adding consistent pressure every turn to your opponent while having an extra rear guard attacker in the form of Aris, and if you pull off the over trigger, well, your opponent's in for one hell of a time having to block all your numbers and attacks. So without further ado, I'm going to end here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and join for Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to send up your Vanguards.